coffee. Meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Yai dai yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai yai dai 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 yai dai ya dai dai ya dai ya dai dai Yadai, Yai dai yai dai 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 yadai yadai dai yadai dai yadai dai yadai dai yadai dai yadai dai 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 dai. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Wow, that was like cacophonous. It is so wonderful to see all of you here tonight. By far, this is the largest group of people that I have had a chance to interact with here at the temple. And I dare say the largest group of people any of you have had to interact with, maybe anywhere, certainly at the temple in the course of the last year. It is so wonderful that we're all here tonight. And Shabbat is special because it's Shabbat. However, this week is particularly exciting because we are here tonight. We're going to be sending off our campers who will be going to Jewish summer camp experiences, and so that's pretty exciting. So we have a camper and a family here, and maybe some more online. We'll see. And then also after services tonight, you'll hear more about it. We'll be having a program. And so I'm particularly pleased to welcome Fort Wayne City Councilwoman Michelle Chambers, who's with us tonight and will be speaking as part of the program after services. And while we're doing welcomes, I also want to extend a warm welcome to students from Purdue Fort Wayne, a counseling program, multicultural counseling program. So they're here to experience us, and some of them have come back. This is their second time here, so we're really glad to have you with us tonight. So just a couple of things, kind of standard reminders. I see a sanctuary filled with mask-wearing people, which makes me happy and makes me sad. You know what I mean. But I'm glad I'm glad to see we're wearing masks, and that continues to be our policy in the temple. And that's basically, I guess the last thing I'll say is there'll be some time when we'll be singing. So it's okay to make music inside your mask, but keep it at about the same level as if you were talking to the person next to you. That helps us keep us safe in here. So that is it in terms of warning and in terms of introduction. And now I'd like to invite you to turn to page 128, page 128, for our gathering song, Hine Matov. Yai dai dai yai dai 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 yai dai 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 Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achyot gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achiot gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achiot gam yachad. Hine matov, yalalai, yalalalalai. Hine matov, yalalai, yalalalalai. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achiot gam yachad. How good it is, that's what we just sang, to be here together, sisters and brothers, as one holy community tonight, a holy community gathered here at 5200 Old Mill Road, and a holy community that includes members who are with us via Zoom. Wherever you are tonight, we are all together as one. We'll continue the service on page 142, page 142, and we will sing Shalom Aleichem, which is a traditional Shabbat. Is it a prayer? Is it a poem? Is it a song? It's all of these things. And it is. It reminds us of our tradition that we believe, we are taught that at the beginning of Shabbat, we are joined by ministering angels who come to us in peace, and they are with us during Shabbat in peace. And when they leave at the end of Shabbat, we are so sad to see them go, but we know they leave us in peace, and they leave us expecting peace for the week to come. Page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let us turn back to page 127. And let us read together at the bottom of the page. We offer thanks to God for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace, born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. As we cross over from the regular time of the rest of the week into the holy time set aside for us in Shabbat, I would like to offer a meditation. And this comes from the Union Prayer Book. So it may sound familiar to those of you who have a long history of Reform worship. As you take in this meditation, I invite you, it's inviting Shabbat to come. I'll give you a little spoiler there. And I'd like you to think about what it is that you are hoping for in this Shabbat and in this coming week. I'll offer you this meditation. Come, O Sabbath day, and bring peace and healing on your wing. And to every weary one, let God's word of blessing come. You shall rest. You shall rest. Welcome, Sabbath. Let depart every care of the troubled heart. Now the daily task is done. Let God's word of comfort come. You shall rest. You shall rest. Wipe from every cheek the tear. Banish care and silence fear. As we journey on our quest, teach us the divine behest. You shall rest. You shall rest. And now we will prepare to light the Shabbat candles, which will light our way as we cross over from this normal time that we come to every Friday, about now, and looking ahead into the Shabbat that is to come. And I'm inviting to the Bima Mimi and Don Zellman, who will light candles for us tonight. And if I'm mistaken, I could still get away with saying I'm new here for a little while longer. But if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time you're lighting candles here for us. Yes. All right. Well, then this is quite a Shehekianu moment. I'll save it for later. But anyway, you will find the blessing, everyone, on page 120, page 120. Thank you very much, and welcome again to our community. We will continue on page 138. Page 138, and we come to the poem, the religious poem Lecha Dodi, and this is a poem kind of wrapped around a metaphor. So here's the metaphor. The metaphor is that coming to Shabbat each week is like returning to a beloved one. The joy that we feel in anticipation of coming to see them again, the warmth we feel in their embrace, and the hope we have for many, many hours, days, and years together. We will sing verses 1, 5, and 9. And when we get to the last verse, I'll invite you to rise. Not yet. When we get to the last verse, I'll invite you to rise, and you'll face the doorway, and we will continue to offer our blessings so that they may go into the world wherever they are needed most. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shemu tiferet belitila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela Lecha Dodi Likarat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela Hitoreri Hitoreri Kiva Ore Kumi Ori Ori, Ori, Shidaberi, Kevod Adonai, Alayik Nigla, Lecha Dodi, Likarat Kala, Pnei Shabbat, Nikabela, Lecha Dodi, Likarat Kala, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzola toch emunei am segula boi chala lecha dodi likarat kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela Lecha Dodi Likarat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. If you're still standing, don't sit. We're going to take a moment. We're going to stand up if you can. And we're going to turn around if you can. And we're going to look at that camera where Samara is standing. And we're going to wave and say hello to those of us who are joining us from wherever they are in the world. We are all here together as one community. And it is so good to see everybody. Okay, you can be seated. Actually, you're resting up here. It's kind of a psych because in a second, I'm going to say something and you're going to go, what? Do I have to stand up again? And the answer will be, yeah. We're going to continue with Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Please rise. You're so good at this. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Belmad Ivrach Erotei ve'amlik malchutei b'chayechon uvyom nechon uv'chayei kol beit Israel bagala uvizman kariv v'imeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alamu al me'almaya yitbarach. Yitbarak v'ishtabak v'itpar v'itnoram v'itnaseh v'ithadar v'italev v'ithalal shemeda kudusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma v'imeru amen. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach. Hamevorach leolam vaed. Hamevorach, hamevorach leolam vaed. You may be seated. We'll continue on page 149, page 149. I invite you to read together with me at the bottom of the page. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my sister, my brother, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravim. And we'll continue on page 150 at the bottom of the page. We'll read together in the English. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Israel. In a moment, we will say the Shema prayer. And this is it's often been called the watchword of the Jewish faith. This is our central prayer. If you peel away everything else, this is at the center. Please rise for Shema on page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We continue on the next page. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitztavecha hayom alevavevcha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha beveitecha uvlechtecha v'aderech uveshochbecha uvekumecha ukshartam leot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot beinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeti echem me'eretz Mitzrayim, L'hiot lachem le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet. We will continue on page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. We'll continue with Micha Mocha on page 158. Micha Mocha is known as our people's song of liberation. It is the song that they sang as they reached the other side of the Red Sea. We will be doing a tune that will be the same tune that we opened up with, the Lai Lai tune. So I know many of us are still learning it, and we'll all know it soon. Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malchut achara uvanecha bokei ayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, zelianu ve'amru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. We'll continue on page 162 with Vishamru. This is the song that reminds us of why we keep Shabbat, what it is that it does for us, that we do for Shabbat. And it reminds me of the very treasured quote by Achad Ha'am when he said, "More than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people." Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. B'nei uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam, veshamru v'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz, veshamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, Shavat vayinafash, Shavat vayinafash, veshamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. In a moment, we will continue praying together on page 164. Page 164, and this is the prayer that we call the Amidah, the standing prayer. It is also the prayer that the rabbis called Ha-Tefillah, the prayer, because everyone knew which prayer they were talking about. This is a moment where we are able to offer blessings to God. And it is traditional that on Shabbat, on the other days of the week, we freely ask from God for what we need. On Shabbat, our tradition is not to ask, but instead to express gratitude. However, as we go through this prayer together, I invite you to pray the words on the page, to experience the blessings being offered, to read the English, which will let you pray inside, or to use this time for your own prayers. Whatever it is that is speaking to you tonight, that is your prayer. We will continue on page 164. Please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agite hilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Kol Mel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, u'Mevi Gula Livnei v'Nehem, Leman Shemo be'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakoat harav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berakamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Venemanat halachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukedoshim b'chol yom yahalucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Please continue with your private prayers, and you may be seated when you're finished. A prayer by Jack Reamer. We cannot merely pray to God to end war, for the world was made in such a way that we must find our own path of peace within ourselves and with our neighbor. We cannot merely pray to God to root out prejudice, for we already have eyes with which to see the good in all people, if only we could use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to God to end starvation, for we already have the resources with which to feed the entire world if we would only use them wisely. We cannot merely pray to God to end despair, for we already have the power to clear away slums and give hope if we only would use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to God to end disease, for we already have great minds with which to search out cures and healings and vaccines if we would only use them constructively. Therefore, we pray instead for strength, determination, and willpower to do instead of merely pray, to become instead of merely to wish, that our world may be safe and that our lives may be blessed. We will continue on page 180, page 180 with Oseh Shalom, the prayer for peace. Oseh Shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imeru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imeru Amen. We have now come to the time when we pray for those who are in need of healing. And when we say healing, we mean healing of body or of mind or of spirit. In a moment, we will continue on page 371, page 371, with Misha Berach, the prayer for healing. Before we say this prayer, I will read the list of those for whom we are praying in this community. And when I come to the end of that list, I'll pause and invite you to say the names aloud of anyone for whom you are praying, whether you are here with us in the sanctuary or whether you are at home. This Shabbat, we pray for Louis Bloom, Ruth Bloom, Andrew Bosell, Pircha Bat Bracha, Adolf Breitman, Adrienne Breitman, Roberta Butts, Dennis Cortillo, Todd Crego, Dan Dregmeyer, Tobias Enright, Alan Gilbert, Barbara Gilbert, Nancy Ferguson, Renee Marver, Kaylin Nagel, Tom O'Neill, Savion Rashad, Chuck Raplain, Janet Rosenberg, Debbie Sherray, Gary Smythe, Bobby Williams. And to those names we add Richard White, Shirley Gerber, for all these names, the names we carry in our heart, we continue with Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishe Ve'berach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And now we are coming to a special time in our community as we think about the amazing experience of Jewish summer camp and prepare to send off our own for an amazing summer with their own Jewish camping adventure. And I would like now to invite a board member and chair of the campership committee, Brian Rossman, to the Bima, who will talk to us about a Jewish camping experience. And I happen to know that Brian was, when I said, would you speak to us tonight? He said, absolutely. And he told me where he was working at 5 o'clock today. And so I'm so grateful that he is here for us. Thank you, Brian.
Rabbi, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody out there in Zoom land. My name is Brian Rossman. I'm the chair of the campership committee, and the rabbi asked me to speak a few words on my experience with camp and the value that I found in it. I have been a camper pretty much since I was old enough at age 8 until I was 17, which either means my parents found value in it or tried to get rid of me all summer. I don't know which. Probably both. I have experienced camps of all shapes and sizes, from Jewish camps in Michigan. I went to Tamarack. I went to several Jewish day camps. I went to YMCA camp at one point. I went to United Synagogue Youth Camp, where we went around the country, all sorts of different experiences. But when I say camp, I am referring to a residential experience between 2 to 4 weeks where your child leaves the home and enters into a peer group under guidance of counselors. So that is very distinct from day camp, which I know a lot of us also will send our children to. Now, I'll cut right to the thesis of my remarks when I say that I find the value of camp, whether Jewish or otherwise, to be the same for adolescents and teenagers as going away to your first apartment or leaving to college may be for young adults. What I mean by that is, for a lot of children, myself included, it is your first taste of independence from your parents. It is your first opportunity to be reliant upon yourself. And in some ways, particularly if you have siblings of different ages, your first opportunity outside of a classroom environment to be around peers of your same age, but not from your same community. And I say that on purpose, because when we're going through school, we tend to be within the same community of people for literally decades throughout our educational career. And depending on what camp experience you may have, you may find yourself interacting with people from your community, from your state, from around the country, or possibly even from around the world, all of which that may practice Judaism differently than you. I can tell you, I had some experiences in my Jewish identity that I would not have had if I had not gone away to camp. From the experience of davening at a lakeshore, which was, honest to God, my first experience not praying inside a chapel of some type, which I found to be an extremely moving and meaningful experience, to hearing how other children experience Judaism in their home that was very different than mine. It was my first experience singing Birkat after each of my meals. It was my first experience having an entirely Jewish experience, and not just when I was within a building for a few hours during the week. And that's an experience I don't think I would have had if I had not gone away to these various types of camps. That's the Jewish specific side of things. And depending on what you value as a family, there is a camp that can fit your needs, be that a local camp or a camp where you send your child away for a whole month. Those camps can range in terms of a very Reform experience to a conservative or even Orthodox experience. There are options throughout the United States and within Indiana that can either present a new experience that your child may not be able to experience here in Fort Wayne, or to expose them to people with similar backgrounds, but throughout the country where they can have new peer groups. So from a perspective of growing as a young Jewish teenager, I don't think there is a comparable experience, and I don't think I can strongly enough advocate that you send your children away to gain that experience. With that in mind, now is a really good plug to remind people that, particularly in 2022, when hopefully COVID is more in the rearview mirror, there are options available here through the synagogue to assist with what can sometimes be a considerable financial burden to send your children to camp. So I don't want that to be an obstacle. If anyone does find that they would like to, but has difficulty doing that, by all means, contact the campership committee. We have several options available and money set aside to help with that, because we do find value in that experience and wish your children to have it. Now that I've done that plug, the last part of my remarks that I would like to share is I really wasn't kidding when I said that my experience in camp, and I believe most experience of children in camp, is to adolescents and young teenagers what going away to college is for young adults. And when I say that, I mean it's a developmental milestone in the growth of a young adult. When I went away to camp was really my first experience having to have responsibility for a group that wasn't imposed upon me by my parents. It was my first opportunity where an entire group of people was counting on me to set the table, get the food when it was my turn, make sure that my cabin was clean, learn how to tell time, and not just tell time, but be somewhere on time, which has served me well throughout my life. There are responsibilities that, and I'm speaking for myself as a parent here, sometimes can be difficult to instill in your children that they will need to embody and really express throughout their experience, such as showing up on time, being responsible to the other people in their cabin, being responsible to other authority figures. That is as much a developmental milestone as anything else. So I think that the camp experience is entirely different than the school experience from that standpoint, and it only has positive attributes for your children. And with that, much like a wedding toast, I'm going to keep it brief. Anyone has any questions, by all means, please contact me. And again, there are resources available for sending your children to camp. Please get in touch with me if you would like more information about that. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. And Brian is in the directory, so you can reach him or call the office and we'll put you in touch with him if you want to talk more about connecting your child or a child you love. We love all our children. I guess what I mean is somebody you know about that you think might want to know about it. We'd be happy to connect you. And so in a moment, I'm going to offer a prayer to send off campers to camp this summer. But I was thinking about it actually while I was sitting there, and I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of two parts. And I think the last thing that someone wants to do is be standing for a really long time on the bema in front of everybody. So I'm going to offer the first part here, and then I will invite our camper to the bema. But what I want to do is I want to tell, in lieu of a sermon, I want to retell briefly a story we read just a couple of weeks ago in Torah. And we're in the book of Numbers. In Hebrew, that is Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And you may remember the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness on their way to the promised land. God told Moses to send scouts out to check out the promised land. So Moses picked out 12 scouts and sent them away to learn about the promised land. They were away for 40 days. That's like most of the summer. And Moses asked them to be positive in their outlook and report back what they found. 10 of the scouts came back and said that the promised land was pretty scary, pretty awful. They said the land was filled with giants and the ground swallowed people up. But 2 of the scouts found that the land was a pretty good place, that it was flowing with milk and honey, and that they wanted to go back, and they wanted everyone else to go back too. God was not happy with the 10 scouts who found only bad things, and was very happy with the 2 scouts who saw the possibilities of the promised land. Going to camp is a little bit like what these scouts experienced. You are likely to find what you are looking for, but be prepared to have wonderful surprises. And so with that, I would like to invite up Ash to the bema. And while Amelia is making her way up here, I also want to mention 2 other children from our community, young people, not children, but young people, who are on their way to camp experiences this summer. Addie Rossman is going to Gucci. She can't be here with us because she has to kind of be off by herself for a while. That's good right there. Off by herself for a while before she goes to camp because she doesn't have her vaccine yet. And Ashlyn Sagan, who could not be here tonight, is going to Camp Joe, the day camp. That is offered through the Jewish Federation here in Fort Wayne. And you, Mila, where are you off to? She said she is off to Gucci. So that is like the big, like, how long are you going to be gone?
4 weeks.
4? 4 weeks. Wow. So you're going to be like in the woods and in a cabin and doing all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah.
How many times have you been to camp?
1.
So you're going back 1 more? So you liked it enough to go back? Cool. How long did you go last time?
4 weeks.
Wow, you jumped right in and went 4 weeks your first time. That's fantastic. You must really, really like it. That's cool. All right. So I'm going to offer a prayer for you in 2 parts. The first part's kind of for them too. And then the second part's going to be just for you. A prayer for summer camp. May you find learning and growth of all kinds. May you gain independence and feel comfort in your Jewish identity. May the mosquitoes be guided away from you, and may the raindrops not fall into your tent too much. May the food be delicious and the pool just the right temperature. May you seek out new experiences and try new things. Vegetables would be nice, but let's get real. May you smile brilliantly for the camp photographer and show up daily in online photo albums. May you avoid the camp crud, and may you never lose your socks. May you take a shower and brush your teeth every day. May you not send wet towels to the laundry because the laundry is charged by weight. Did you know that? May your arrows fly straight, your fishing line never get tangled, and your tether ball not whack you in the nose. May you not fall off the top bunk. May you not spend your whole canteen account on silly junk. May you not lose your hat and water bottle the first week. May you not lose your way in the night to the outdoor bathroom. This is really important. May you write your family at least 1 letter besides the one they make you write at the beginning of camp. May you create a lifelong friendship, at least 1, if not many more. May you renew old friendships since they are the most precious. May you learn more and more about yourself and your spirit and your being. And may you return home in one piece with all your belongings, and may you ever yearn to return to the land of summer camp. So, Neil, I said that part was for them, and you're hanging out here a long time. I really appreciate that. But this is for you. Have an amazing summer. Discover the amazing person that you are. Discover the amazing community of Jewish kids who are there to be your friends forever. Have a wonderful time this summer. And when you come back, I want to talk to you about it and find out how it was. Okay. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful summer.
Thanks.
You bet. Shabbat shalom. You can go sit down. Kind of makes me want to go to camp. We've now come to the time when we have some brief announcements to share, some things we want you to know about. Thank you again to all of you who are joining us tonight, especially those of you who are visiting or who are joining us online. We are seeking a religious school principal for the 2021-22 school year. You have an opportunity to shape wonderful kids' lives And I think you get a little sense of what that's like here from maybe what we're experiencing tonight. And so if you're interested, please be in touch with the office. We will have Shabbat morning services tomorrow at 9:45 a.m. and they will also be offered on Zoom. We're practicing to offer a warm mazel tov to the Hadashi Zimmerman family as Matthew Hadashi is called to the Torah next weekend as bar mitzvah. Members are invited to participate on Zoom, and the link will go out in next week's email. Tonight, this is important. So we have something happening in just a couple of minutes. So we'll be having our Hot Topics Shabbat. We'll be hearing from Fort Wayne City Councilwoman Michelle Chambers and the work that she has been leading on a very important commission in our city. And so to get ready for that, after the service concludes, our ushers, because there's a lot of us in here tonight, we'll invite those of us who are going to be leaving. We hope you all stay. But if you're going to be leaving, we'll take a minute for you to get up and be able to leave, and our ushers will help you do that because we're trying to maintain social distancing. And I'll be outside to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. And we'll take a couple of minutes to set some things up, and then we will begin. So probably about 10 minutes after the service ends, we will begin our Hot Topics program. And then lastly, I want to thank all of our ushers, our temple security staff, our temple staff, the security team, and to Brian Rossman for speaking tonight about camp, and for Pam and Rod Friedman, my prayer leading partners who will be helping us lead services tomorrow. And a special thank you to Councilwoman Michelle Chambers, who I think we'll thank again later, but I'll thank her now as well, and to our Social Action Committee for a really great program that we'll have for you in just a few minutes. All right. We have now come to the time when we will pray Aleinu, which you will find on page 586, page 586. I will invite you to rise as you are able. Aleinu l'shabeach ladod hakol latet gedula leyotze breshit shelo asanu kegoei haratzot velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem vegoraleinu kechol hamonam va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh Baruch Hu v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihye Adonai echad Ushemo echad. You may be seated for just a moment. We have come to the time in our service when we pray for those who we are remembering, those who have died either recently or in this season in years past. We will pray in a moment the Mourner's Kaddish, which you'll find on page 598, page 598. I will read our communal Kaddish list, and when I come to the end of the list, I'll pause and invite you to name anyone that you are remembering this Shabbat. This Shabbat continues the period of Shloshim, the death within the past 30 days of Joan Kramer. We continue the period of Shana, death within the last year of Manny Silverman, Ruby Jackson, Ron Subik, Harold Prigozhin, Sarah Lee Levin, Marilyn Salen, Marvin Krell, Jack Rosenberg, Leah Batmanasha Vibaila, Kathy Jarvis, James Lieb, Christina Bacher, Norman Snow. This Shabbat is the yahrzeit, the anniversary of death of Isidore Al Edelman, Jonas Arnold, Rena Babich, Al Burke, Amelia Butts, Archibald Cohen, Gail Cousineau, Georgina B. Daniel, Joel Deitch, Kate Dicker, Edward T. Dinkin, Moses Engelhard, Alvin Avraham Farber, Louis Fishman, Alan Fleischman, Jack Frank, Solomon, Gabe, Otto Gartner, Sabine Gartner, Teresa Hannah Gartner, Dr. Knopf H. Gladstone, Robert Goldstein, Jack Goodman, Sylvia Goodman, Fred Hefter, Robert Hutner, Sarah Jacobson, Lauren Kaminsky, Philip Fievel Kaplan, Margaret Katz, Jack Commissaro, Della Cranis, Aaron M. Krakauer, Charles A. Lempel, Julie C. Latz, Mildred Llewellyn, Abe Magazine, Abe Minsk, Stephen Allen Meerman, Dorothy Mullenix, Glenn Noyes, Robert M. Pollock, Martha Raplain, Samuel Schechter, Louis Sheffman, Eleanor C. Schwartz, Max Spanger, Julia W. Trowerman, Flora S. Weil, Edward Zamrin. And to those names we add for the names we have heard, the names we carry in our heart, and the names of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. I invite you on page 598 to rise as a community in solidarity for Kaddish Yatom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'almad yivrach cherote, ve'amlich malchute, v'chayachon v'yomachon v'chayed kol beit Yisrael, bagala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mavarach leolam ulmei almaya, yitbarach v'ishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitnoram v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudisha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'yisharata, Tush bechata v'nechamata damiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'akol Israel v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'akol Israel v'imru amen. You may be seated. We'll close our service tonight with a short kiddush. This is the blessing we say for the wine that we will have at our Shabbat meal, or perhaps we had already. This is the blessing that set it aside and makes it holy and ready for our enjoyment in Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. Shabbat shalom. I will see some of you outside as you leave, and we will begin topics in about 10 minutes. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Maybe go up to the rabbi, hit him, and maybe that'll. That microphone off. Where? See that microphone up in the red with the cross through it on the bottom right?
I'm doing
Bottom left,
what?
I guess. Bottom left.
I took her office.
You might wonder why we're waiting. Okay, we got the hand signal. It's time to start. Good evening and Shabbat Shalom. And welcome to the first Hot Topics program for 2021. Hot Topics programs are made possible through a grant by the Harry S. Ceylon Foundation, and we thank the trustees for making this possible. Members of the Social Action Committee who organized tonight's program work hard to fulfill their mission statement, which reads, members of Congregation Octath V'Sholem are engaged in the ongoing work of Tikkun Olam, striving to improve the world in which we live. For the Social Action Committee, our mission is to provide programs which fulfill that obligation, including programs on social justice, social action, and social reform. The committee members are Donna Turco, Susie Miller, Marcia Reynolds, Steve Carr, John Stein, Kathy Sider, Sally Trotter, Julie Dominguez, Rabbi Meir Bargeron, and I am Rena Black, chair of the committee. On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was murdered by a member of the Minneapolis Police Department. On Friday of that week, May 29th, I, along with hundreds of other horrified Fort Wayne residents, met on the lawn of the Allen County Courthouse downtown to show support for Mr. Floyd, Mr. Floyd's family, and the Black Lives Matter movement. In the first of what was in Fort Wayne, a month's worth of demonstrations demanding change in policing and racial justice, one of many such demonstrations around not just our country, but around the world. Many of us knew before then that there was not equity in law enforcement. But Mr. Floyd's murder, gruesome as it was, the entire nightmare captured on cell phone video shot by a 17-year-old, made it impossible to ignore that any longer. As a result of this, Mayor Tom Henry formed an 18-person commission, the Mayoral Commission on Police Reform and Racial Justice. They were tasked with reviewing policies of the Fort Wayne Police Department and to come up with suggestions to improve local policing efforts. Named as co-chairs of this commission were Joe Jordan, director of the Boys and Girls Club of Fort Wayne, and Michelle Chambers, an at-large member of the Fort Wayne City Council. After several months of intense work, the commission presented their report to the mayor. The ball was then in the hands of local law enforcement, who only recently presented their response to the commission's report. Michelle is here tonight to fill us in on the commission's duties, their mission, the report they generated, as well as the police department's response to those suggestions. Councilwoman Michelle Chambers is a native of Fort Wayne and owner of a business which serves the real estate community. Prior to assuming office, Councilwoman Chambers was a strong community advocate, serving on several civic and nonprofit boards. She holds a master's degree in public administration and a Bachelor of Arts in Child Development. Her public service career spans over 2 decades, overseeing programming for underserved communities and at-risk youth and their families. She is an adjunct professor at Vincennes University, where she teaches locally at East Allen County University. She created Fort Wayne political history by being one of the first 2 African-American women elected to city council, along with Councilwoman Sharon Tucker, and currently serves as the co-chair of the Public Works Committee. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to not only an outstanding citizen and role model, but also a very dear friend of mine, Michelle Chambers. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for having me here this evening. It's a true honor to be here and to come and share with you the work that has happened with the Mayor's Commission of Police Reform and Racial Justice. And Rabbi, what a wonderful service. There is such peace in this house. It's been a while because of COVID since I've been in a house of worship, and this was a perfect way to start this conversation and dialogue. There's great peace in this temple here, and I appreciate being here this evening. So just go, okay. So as Rena has already shared with us, we have just passed the 1-year anniversary of the murder of Mr. George Floyd. The nation, the world watched for 9 minutes and 29 seconds while he was brutally murdered at the hands of a police officer. And as you all know, in response to that murder, on May the 29th, we here locally experienced our own civil unrest. And out of that civil unrest, we witnessed that there were some areas that we needed improvement for our police department here. The mayor did a call to action on June the 18th and asked the city to come together and move forward together. And that's how the commission was established. We worked, the 18 of us, worked for 8.5 months. We worked really hard. It was a lot of hard dialogue, a lot of opinions, very passionate arguments. If you're bored one day and you feel compelled, all of the meetings were recorded. We initially started off meeting in person, and then we went to Zoom. So you can always go to the mayor's page on police reform and racial justice, and you can just sit and watch the meetings. I share that with you so that you can know that this was not a commission only in name. There was a cross section of individuals who served on that commission, from clergy to young millennials to business owners, women, men, people in leadership. So you really had a broad perspective of the different lenses that individuals viewed our civil unrest here in Fort Wayne. And those recommendations, we came up with 44 recommendations under 3 areas of concern, which was race, communication, and police transparency. When we made the presentation to the mayor and the community, the mayor asked that the police department report back within 45 days of receipt of the recommendations. And the chief was successful in that. He did report out, I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was about, 4/26. Yeah, we're in May, we're in June. He did report out within 45 days of the response to the recommendations. And before we went public with those recommendations, Joe Jordan and I, we went over them step by step by step, because we didn't want it to be fluffy, no impact to those recommendations that were being presented. And the recommendations that have come back from the police department, we are pleased with them, but there is still work to do. And again, we ask that the chief come back in 90 days and report their continued progress in those areas. So although as a commission, we are no longer meeting, the co-chairs, the mayor agreed to, and the chief agreed to continue to meet with us so we can monitor and share with the community the continued progress. So some of the things that were very concerning that came out of the commission was that we needed more diversity on the police force. We needed the cultural sensitivity training. The 8 Can't Wait, which I don't know if you all are familiar with that, but it's a national initiative on how police should police and how they handle the people that they come in contact with. We are doing that 8 Can't Wait. We are in alignment with that. We looked at different funding sources. A lot of times, if you ever really look at the budget of the police department, it really just covers salaries. But the police department does so much more than that. And we fought tooth and nail because we asked for social workers. We actually they just hired 2 new social workers to be in partnership and work on a team, because you'll be surprised at all of the mental health issues that police officers have to deal with on a daily basis. So we got those social workers in there. And I wish I had brought the picture of the new recruiting officers. It looks like our community. Women, Latino, African-American, there's 8 individuals who will be concentrating on recruiting. Another initiative, a way to get women on the police force. So there's a national initiative called 30 by 30. So 30 women hire 30 female police officers by the year 2030. So they've implemented that. Bringing in technology. So now when they're doing recruiting, there's a police officers recruitment app. So the officers that are recruited can stay in continuous contact with potential new police officers. So bringing that technology together. And then most importantly, City Council had approved the funding for body cams, and it was going to be like a 2 or 3 year period to get the whole police force outfitted. Well, we'll have 100 outfitted this year, and then the remaining the following year, which was really, really huge. And I'm very proud of the work that we did on the commission, because if you've been following local politics, we as a city, we were somewhat ahead of the game. We are actually in alignment with the federal government, what's going through for the George Floyd Act at the federal level. The state recently changed the laws for policing and holding police officers more accountable, looking at ways to eliminate bad police officers. And these are things that we talked about as a commission. So I take a lot of pride in helping be a part of the change that our police department will receive. When the mayor gave me a call and asked me to be the chair of the commission, I didn't say yes immediately, because I knew the importance of this commission. So I gave him a call back in 24 hours and I told him, Mayor, I'm happy to chair the commission, but I'm going to chair the commission and we're going to respond to the community. This will not be politics as usual. This will be a real commission. So I feel really good about where we're going as a city. And I just wanted to share with you the mission statement as well as the vision statement for the commission. Really need these things now. So the vision statement for the Commission on Police Reform and Racial Justice purpose is to help create positive and meaningful change that brings forth racial equity and peace to all Fort Wayne residents, especially those who are Black, people of color, or marginalized, to ensure everyone is respected, appreciated, and valued. The mission statement. The Commission on Police Reform and Racial Justice, through community dialogue and engagement, will provide recommendations and feedback to the administration, the Fort Wayne Common Council, on policies, practices, procedures related to the City of Fort Wayne's Public Safety Division. The commission has grouped its initial findings. Well, that was the mission statement. This document right here, it is available online, the 44 recommendations, and it's broken down to the 3 areas. So you can get the initial recommendations online, and you can get the police department's response to the recommendations online. That was one of our goals, is to make sure that our police department is more transparent, that like I said, the meetings were recorded. All of this information is online as well. So that was very important to us. And another thing that came out of this, which I'm very excited about, you're going to start looking at police officers again, doing more community policing, being more connected to the areas that they're serving in, not just driving by, but just being out, getting out, interacting with the communities. Our children have to know that our police force and us as adults, we have to understand they are there to protect and to serve us. We have to work together collectively. We as constituents have our responsibilities, how we interact with the police, and the police have their responsibilities and how they interact with us. So we will be having, the police department will be having more community dialogues, going out and talking to the community, because I think the national politics have really rolled down to a lot of local communities that may not be in alignment how our city is, but we do have some of those issues that we have to address head on. So I'm liking where we're going with the transparency, outfitting our police department, getting back to community quadrant policing. I guess the candle likes it too. So, where we're getting back to that, looking at funding opportunities. And I'm just so happy that we have those 2 social workers that were hired this year, and diversifying and getting more women onto the police force as well, and using technology to recruit. I know you've probably seen in the news, all industries are hurting to hire people, but unfortunately, because of the division that everyone is experiencing nationally, people are not running to sign up to be police officers. And we've got to really figure out a way to shift that tide and encourage more people here locally. My goal is that we begin to have a police force of people that are local. We got to figure out a way to get people engaged and wanting to work here locally, because I mean, police departments are recruiting from different states. They're going to recruitment fairs. We're not the only ones hurting, and we have a police force that's aging out. We have a lot of people that are ready to retire, but we don't have a lot of people stepping in and answer that call. So that's pretty much an overview of where we're at as a commission right now.
Anybody have any questions so far before I start asking questions? Yeah. The question is, what can we do as citizens to help with this initiative?
I would say the way that you can help with the initiative is, one, is be active in your local quadrant meetings that take place monthly. There's always a police person there. If you believe in our police department, start encouraging people and women and people of color to apply, and being the eyes and the ears. If you see something that's wrong, an interaction between a citizen and a police officer, report it. That was another, it keeps coming to me, all the things. I don't know if you all know this, but you can go online and give a recommendation, a yes, good job, police officer, very easy, just go online and type it up. But if you want to file a complaint or something like that, you have to download the document, you have to print it out, and then you have to go in and turn it in person. So we're working for that to be able to be done electronically, because you can do electronic signatures on things. So we're just trying to level the playing field. We don't have, to me, a terrible police force, but what we learned is that we need to know how to respond. This was the first civil unrest that we experienced as a city. So instead of escalating a situation, how they respond with the tear gas and the bullets and all of that, we got to look at de-escalation, how to de-escalate a situation. So we're looking at different training techniques and things of that nature. So there, like I always tell people, there were lessons learned on both sides, from our peaceful protesters to our police officers who responded to some of those peaceful protesters who began to have aggression. So there was opportunities for both sides to learn, right? How we can make those changes. Unfortunately, because there's so much litigation going on right now, we weren't able to dive down into the lessons learned because with the legalities, because of litigation. So that's just one piece that I'm looking forward to being able to deal with. How will we respond after all of this training and all these that we're doing now, knock on wood, that we don't have to respond again to a civil unrest, but will we take that same approach again? I'm hoping that we don't, but we won't really know until we get through all of the litigation, because there's still some, I wanted to bring you all the numbers, and I left them, how many people were arrested, they were charged with. I know there's still a couple, I think there's 3 people that are going to have jury trials. So there's still litigation taking place as we speak right now.
Is there a date by which the commission is expecting their suggestions to be implemented?
Well, can you hear me? Do I need it? Okay, I do, okay. Again, there was initial 45-day report back, and now we're looking at a 90-day.
Okay.
So we are
understood.
just chipping away at it. We're not closing it down completely. We're watching the progress. And the mayor is committed to that. So there's no, okay, we have to be done by this date. We're going to continue to come back. We're going to continue to check up, and we're going to continue to report out to the community on the progress of those 44 recommendations. Because we didn't really make any recommendations that can't be implemented. We really didn't. So.
Were there any recommendations you made that the police department has out of hand dismissed at this point?
No, there were some very passionate conversations. Believe it or not, there was a lot of passionate conversation initially about social workers. It was just being interpreted incorrectly. We had to really work through that. We weren't saying that send a social worker in first if somebody's having a mental health breakdown. No, that's not what we're saying. We're trying to help you, eliminate all of that social work that you're actually doing, trying to find somewhere for someone to sleep, finding food, it's so many things that our police force deal with on a daily basis outside of protecting and serving. So I think we had to help them shift their mindset and really understand how this would just be an asset to the department. So again, we got 2 social workers that are now officially working with the Fort Wayne PD to be that gap, to stand in the gap for police officers.
We've heard a lot about de-escalation training on a national stage since May of 2020. Have the Fort Wayne police officers undergone any kind of de-escalation training prior to the commission being formed?
Not that I'm aware of. I know there's a commitment to reevaluate how they responded to our civil unrest, and we were talking about de-escalation. Again, I don't know what that's going, because of litigation, law is interesting. So we won't know what that is, but I guess they can't just come out and say right now, because of litigation XYZ was done wrong, this is what we're going to do to improve. So I'm assuming once we're done with this litigation situation, we will know specifically what that's going to look like in the event that we have I'm hoping we never do have a civil unrest, but in the event that we do.
You mentioned the 8 Can't Wait program. Can you explain that to everybody?
Well, the 8 Can't Wait really deals with how police officers interact when they're making arrests. And it deals with specifically the chokehold. It deals with, how you respond to cars that are approaching you, and that are how you can respond to a vehicle, and I'm pointing like using your gun and things of that nature. It's really how I don't have them memorize the 8 steps, but it's really how police officers interact when they're arresting and they're dealing with the community. And it really emphasizes de-escalating a situation. Find a way to de-escalate the situation. You don't want to meet aggression with aggression. I mean, it seems so simple, right? It seems so simple, but historically, if you go back and look at the foundation of policing in America, it wasn't built on a foundation of, it was built on a foundation of protection, but it was really built on a foundation of slave owners protecting their slaves and making sure they rounded them up and got them back. So as we have evolved as a country and as a nation, our police department has had to evolve as a country and a nation, how we police. Policing in America wasn't initially about protecting you or me. It was about rounding those slaves up and getting them back and keeping freed slaves in order. So you have to evolve, So we are evolving, learning de-escalation, community policing, police force that look like everybody here in this temple right now. So we just have work to do and a lot of learning to do on how we police. People were throwing out that term, defund the police. I don't agree with that term, because if you look at our budget, the majority of that budget is for salaries. There's not a lot of waste in fire and police, but that's where a lot of our money goes. It's in salaries. And as a growing city, that would probably grow as well. So when you hear that term, defund the police, maybe we can look at policing in a different way. But with the retirements, the lack of new police, coming into the force, we really, if you look at where we're in the scale of, well, we know this about teachers and police, we're like on the lower end of the scale of how we pay our public servants. It's really on the low end of things. So if anything, we need to, have better salaries and continue to have that diversity training. A great deal of the police officers are going through the Fort Wayne United training, about cultural biases and things of that nature. So the police department is doing the work. And there are definitely lessons learned that came out of this civil unrest. We got to do, when you know better, you do better.
You brought up police salaries. Is it city council that decides the pay of the police department?
No, I mean, our system is interesting. It's the mayor's budget, but we approve it. And then the city, the police department comes every year and say, well, we're going to hire this many people. We'll need this month. We need this many cars. Every year they come, present their budget. The mayor puts it together and then we approve it. Mayor's budget, we approve it. The only thing I want you all to know that city council can do, that we can do, we can only cut. We can't add to, we can't say, we'll take this million and take it over to this department. All we can do is cut the budget. We don't have any say to where the funds go. That was a hard lesson for me to learn. My first year, I was like, oh, just cut? We just want to, I can only cut. And I can't say what I'm cutting to send it over here. So it is the mayor's budget and all we can do is cut. And when you're cutting your city budget, you have to be careful because when you cut those dollars, they're just going to go back in the general fund. Put money back in the general fund is no longer allocated for a specific line item. I was like, wow. Okay, so first year was a very interesting learning lesson. So yeah, all we can do is cut mayor's budget. All we can do is cut. We can't add to, we cannot reallocate. We can't move things around, unfortunately.
Okay.
What role does the victim assistant play within the police department, and does victim assistant program still exist?
Yeah.
The question is, what role does the victim assistance program play and does it still exist?
The role that I'm aware of that victim assistance plays mostly is helping to bury people. They provide those funds to help, if there's a death or something like that. But that funding is always, very minimum. And there's some nonprofits that help with that. Or if there's research for rape, domestic violence, those social things that happen in policing. It does still exist.
We have another question here.
Hi, Julie.
Kind of a two-part question. You mentioned the two social workers. One, do they go out on call with the police officers? And two, has a possibility of being able to hire a crisis team that would do the mental health calls for people, for example, that are suicidal without a weapon, or for children that are on the autism spectrum disorder that can be escalated. And also, have they explored the possibility of hiring translators to go out on call in communities where English is not the first language?
Okay.
Does anyone need that repeated or? Does somebody say yes? Yes. Okay.
It was okay. So the first part of the question was, will the social workers be going out on the actual calls? I'm not for sure. There was resistance because, when you're going to a scene, a crime scene or an intervention, you don't know what you're going into. And the police officers were very concerned about a social worker being hurt. The police department does have a crisis intervention team. They do have as a matter of fact, I unfortunately had to utilize the crisis intervention team. There's a gentleman out here who's become fixated on me as a councilwoman. And at first it was just 20 calls a day, and then it escalated into threatening calls. So I had to report that. So they went out. He was able to articulate himself very well. One thing about the crisis intervention team, if you're not harming yourself, if you're not harming anyone, and you could be in a total meltdown, they won't take you from the home. And although the people in the apartment building, his doctor even said he needed to be back on his meds. He wasn't harming anyone. He wasn't harming himself. He wasn't harming any property, anything like that. So I had to report it. You know, it's okay, you can call me all day if you want, but when you start saying you're going to hurt me and harm my family and stuff like that, then I had to report it. So we do have a crisis intervention team. I don't know specifically how they're going to work the social workers into those crisis situations, because they'll probably work in partnership with the crisis intervention team, but they'll probably deal with a lot of those social services, deals with those issues. You know, you go get a family in the middle of the night, you have children, you know, how do you connect them with, you know, social services versus a police officer trying to find hold on to or have a child or a family, getting them placed. So they will stand in that gap, but how that's going to look, I don't know, because the police officers, we did have 2 police officers on the commission, they were very, very concerned about the safety of the social worker, because you don't want someone to get harmed whether they're trying to prevent or trying to help. So specifically, Julie, I don't know how that relationship is going to play out, but we do have 2 social workers. So you wanted to know about social workers, crisis intervention, and was there one more thing?
Translators.
Yes, that was another thing. We have a growing Latino population, Burmese population. We're trying to recruit in those communities because a lot of our fellow citizens who don't speak English or don't have a good grasp of English, there's a fear. And if they can't communicate and they don't understand, they won't call, they won't utilize. So that's getting back to that community policing, having police officers that look like the people that they're serving. That's really, really critical. I remember growing up, the police officers, we had personal relationships with them. We admired them, we honored them. It was exciting to see the policeman and the firemen. Not so much right now for some communities. So I'm happy that the chief is shifting back and making it more of a ground level and more community policing, not community policing from an aggressive perspective, but becoming a part of that community, you know, so people know who their police officers are. You know, you see police officers' cars far out. That's another thing. You know, the city had where you can, if you didn't live in Allen County, you had to live in Allen County, but if you live in a county that's contiguous, that's connected to Allen County, you could still work. So you have people coming in and then going, you know, back to wherever they live. Are you really vested in the communities that you're serving, or is it just a job?
Yeah, Rabbi.
Thank you again for being with us.
Yes.
My question is the work that you've done, and it's very impressive, and I think you've had a significant output in a very short period of time.
That
we're
part.
hopeful will have an impact on the community.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty clear to anyone paying attention that all of this is happening in a context of pretty tremendous social unrest and disagreement on what the problems are and what the solutions are. And I think it's possible that there are well-intended citizens in our community who may feel that the outputs of the commission and the response of the police department may not be enough.
Right.
Have no chance of addressing the concerns that they have. So I guess I'd like to know what you would say in response to people who either have a different vision of a solution or would like to have seen something else or something more.
Yeah. So the way that I responded to that question is that I let them know there were 18 individuals there from across the board. What we did in a 9-month period, people take 2 and 3 years to do. And what I share with them is that you have a councilwoman and a mayor who are vested in this particular commission. You can send in your questions, your recommendations to the website, to the page, if you're not satisfied with the 44 recommendations. But the reality is that we did the very best that we could do, and we were committed, and these were well thought out recommendations. If there's something they're missing, you still can send in your desires, your recommendations, and they will be addressed. But we did the absolute best. We volunteered our time to respond to a need that we were experiencing as a city as a whole. We may not have had answered all the questions, but we put a lot of effort into trying to cover a lot. And those 44 recommendations, once they're all implemented, you will see a change in our police force. That's what I believe to be true. And as a rabbi, you know you can't please everybody. If you know you're doing your best, all you can do is do your best. And everything is transparent. We had to be transparent. That's why we recorded the meetings. No secrecy, no backdoor dealings. And we had a great cross-section of representation of the city.
Yeah.
Representative Chambers,
Yes.
did you look at any other cities around the country that were trying to do the same thing, that come up with good solutions that might help our city?
I did personally. I had looked at South Bend because, oh, that's another thing on our safety board. We were, right now, the safety board, it consisted of a retired fireman, and 2 retired police officers. We really fought, and the mayor has committed to adding 2 more constituents, just regular, everyday people. Because it's very, again, you have to have that proper representation. I'm not saying that a retired police officer or retired fireman can't make fair and equitable decisions. You know, there's no bias there. But I still think that on our safety board, we definitely needed to have better representation. So we're just waiting. That's another thing that came out of that. The mayor will be appointing 2 people to our safety board. So I took a look at South Bend. South Bend is interesting. It's a very interesting city, but they really brought in the community to begin to work directly with their police department. I can't say if other members looked at other cities, but that's what I looked at South Bend, because they've had a lot of great success. They still have a lot of issues, but they have made a lot of great progress as well when it comes to policing.
And Al, when the Indianapolis Commission released their requests, I forwarded it to Michelle.
Yeah,
So I
yes,
know
yes.
that she did look at what other cities are
Yeah.
doing. I have a question about body cams. As I understand it, Fort Wayne Police Department had some body cameras prior to May 2020. Very few.
Very few.
And now we've gotten 100
Yeah,
more.
we're gonna have everybody's out. We got the money. We have, yes. We will definitely have 100 outfitted by the end of this year. And then the rest will happen within the next, 12 to 24 months as well, versus 4 years from now. Initially, always about money, because it's all most of the budget is salary. But during this time, we found some grant money. We got a much better deal on the technology. The thing about body cams is that you just can't buy them and throw them on. You have to create the infrastructure to maintain the body cams. You got to set up the technology. You got to have a person who's going to deal with that technology. They had to revise their body camera policies, the usage. That was something that I was heavy on, like, hey, let's get these body camera policies updated. There's no turning off, turning back on, all of that good, that stuff. So you got to get the infrastructure set up, and then you got to get trained on how to use them. So I'm just excited because, like you said, we had them. Maybe, I don't even know if it was 20 police officers. I should not tell a lie. I don't know. But we had them, but there wasn't a big push to get it across the department. I think the nation knows that body cams protect you and I, and they protect our police officers. It's a great tool. But you're right, there were some existing,
But you never heard about them being used.
No.
I never saw any police camera footage.
I mean, you have your cam in the car. I think there's one in the back, but there was nothing on the person.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Comment in the chat from Harriet Miller.
Hey, hi, Harriet.
Thank you, Michelle, for your leadership. Our community is stronger, safer,
Oh.
healthier because you are on city council and involved in the decision making.
Thank you, Harriet. One of my people I love and mentors. I love you guys. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Harriet. I totally agree. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we let Michelle go?
May
Okay.
I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So you had mentioned that there was a 45-day period and then there's a 90-day
Mm-hmm.
period. Is there anything, if after the 90 days, not all of their reforms or desires have been met, is there like a chance to do another 90 days or something like that?
The mindset of the commission is we will follow where we're going and how we're checking down these 44 recommendations. If they all get met, then there's not a need to continue to follow up, but we're not ending it. That's what I said at the press conference. We'll be back in 90 days, you know? So no, we just have to follow it and see how it goes. Again, if you have the opportunity to read through this, it's available online. Everything is online. You can see that, yeah, that's some good common sense stuff. Okay, I can see where it might take a little while to get that implemented, but there wasn't anything so extreme that we can't do it as a police department. I really believe that we should be able to implement those recommendations without issue, but we'll keep following up. You know, the mayor is committed to it, the chief is committed to it as well, to continue to follow up as they chip away at it. Mhm.
So will there be is there like enshrined in some law or something, the accountability?
If you take I can't call the, it passed in February or March this year, a state law. Yeah, it's really changed the accountability on the police officers and not allowing bad police officers to be rehired, and the accountability, not, you know, over and over, you get to be a bad police officer forever. So there are great state laws that have been implemented. What people, just to share with you, our police department is governed by state law, not local ordinance. So state law trumps local. So we are governed by state laws, our police department. I think I know
I
this.
just wonder, what are the headlines that you would say you learned from working with this very big and very diverse group? So what are the headlines of how to work with those groups well that you feel you've learned?
When you have people who have volunteered for a daunting task, you have to have, my girlfriend and I call it your elephant ears on, your really big ears on to listen. You can't be so passionate about what you believe is right. You have to be able, think about 18 people had to come together and really listen to one another and find those happy mediums. And I think that we all took away from those 8.5 months together, that we can be successful together if we can respect one another, listen to one another, value each other's opinions. But I'm telling you, if you watch some of those videos, some really tense moments, but I'm proud of that we were able to come together and really come out with a lot of strong recommendations. You just have to be able to listen, receive, maybe see something from a different lens, and then find that happy medium. I know I sound very flowery, but that's really what it was, to do the hard work. Sometimes you just have to listen and see a different perspective. And that happened on more than one occasion. On more than one occasion that happened. Because what we had to share with our police department, you are not our enemies. We are just trying to deal with hurt constituents. We are trying to learn better how to respond. You know, the justice training that you go to, I don't know if anybody in here has had that opportunity where you have a gun in your hand. If you ever can sign up for that, you really learn. It's really scary. You can kill somebody in the blink of an eye. And when you go through that simulation, you're like, okay. Sometimes you're passionate how you feel about things. When you walk in somebody else's shoes, you're like, okay, let's reevaluate some of these things. So it's just really learning how to work through, listen, and bring all these different ideas and thought processes together to come up with these recommendations. So are there any other questions? Yes. Oh, somebody.
Ever looked into having the police officers take courses in sociology so that you have a few police officers that have the experience of the social background that a social worker would have?
You know, I can't say if they do, if they don't. I know they do a lot of annual trainings every year that they have to do. I can't speak specifically to sociology. I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure. I can't say absolutely.
Kathy, did you have another question? Oh, I thought I saw your hand up. No. Okay.
So I'll just end with this. I am your councilwoman. You can contact me anytime at michelechambers.info. You can send in a message to me. I'll meet with you. I come out and meet with people. I'm very accessible as a councilwoman. So if you have any ideas, recommendations, you can go to the mayor's page on police reform and racial justice. You're able to submit your concerns and comments there still. We didn't shut the page down. It's still in existence. The videos are still there. So I'm happy to meet with groups, talk with people. And again, I'm very, very accessible. Just reach out to me and I'm happy to come back anytime. And thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
It's our pleasure to have you here, Michelle. For those of you who do not know, the website is cityoffortwayne.org. And that has the mayor's page. It has information on all the council members, all the city services. I certainly feel better informed on this subject than I was before I heard Michelle speak. And I think that Michelle herself is a living example of Tikkun Olam, striving to repair the world. And I agree that we are very lucky to have her here. Thank you. Thank you, Social Action Committee members. I look forward to seeing all the rest of you at our next scheduled program, which is in October, where Social Action Committee and Holocaust Education Committee will be hosting Mark Oppenheimer, who is the author of Squirrel Hill, the Tree of Life Massacre, Tree of Life Synagogue Massacre, which book is being released in October. So we will be one of his first visits after the publication of the book. Thank you. Thank you all. Good night.
Okay.
Wonderful. I would take any.